This video I'm going to be talking about phobias. I'm going to briefly define what a phobia is, maybe explain it a little bit just to give you a bit more information. I'm going to be talking about simple and complex phobias, and I'll be going through the top 10 phobias. Now, most of this information has come from my brain book again. Again, I'm not selling this, it's just this has been a really useful resource for my research for this vlog. So, what is a phobia? A phobia is an irrational fear, and it causes intense and uncontrollable anxiety. So when you're experiencing a phobia, it could be possibly similar to that of a panic attack, where you may feel your breathing pick up, you may have clammy palms, you may even feel a bit sweaty, you know, around sort of the armpits and maybe around the sort of chest area. You may shake, you may tremble, and yeah, it's really not a nice experience. And it's usually considered a disorder when the persistent or irrational fears can have a huge impact on your daily life. Now, I've said that many times, probably too much, I don't know, but that phobias, well, all mental illness, no matter how it's seen as irrational to others, when you're experiencing that illness, when you're experiencing that phobia, that anxiety, it is 100% real. And no amount of other people saying, oh, you're really silly, you shouldn't do that, and oh, you know, why are you scared of that, man? Like, why? Yeah, it's not like that. Sorry, it's like that, what I've said before, you know, if we had the choice to feel fear, to feel sadness, to feel anxiety, would we want to feel it over maybe feeling happy or enjoying life? I know which one I'd prefer. So we shouldn't laugh, we shouldn't joke, we shouldn't take the piss about phobias, because they are real to the individual. Now, I'm just going to, you know, continue talking about the phobias and talking about simple and complex. Simple fears of specific objects, for example spiders or enclosed spaces. So a simple phobia is one that maybe stands on its own, or maybe works with another one that maybe is totally unrelated. So you could be terrified of spiders, and I don't just mean like, ooh, go away. I mean, you know, leave the room, panic, shout, throw, whatever. Absolutely, completely terrified by them. You could also be absolutely terrified of heights. Now, those two phobias on their own, as horrible as they can be, are relatively simple in the fact that, you know, once that spider's out of the equation, or, you know, you've made that decision that you're not going to be going on, I don't know, the London Eye or some really fast, super high roller coaster. So you can kind of say, yeah, it's a bit annoying, you know, I can't do that. But it's relatively simple in the fact that you don't really have to change much of your life. Your behaviour and your patterns of behaviour don't necessarily change. So that's kind of a simple one. Now, complex phobias will involve perhaps multiple layers of anxiety, multiple phobias. So I'm going to use a really sort of good example of how, you know, regular sort of anxiety can take you to your phobic places. So, for example, if you have agoraphobia, sorry if I keep saying that incorrectly, then you are likely, well, if you have agoraphobia, you're going to be scared of crowds, big open places. But you could also be scared of travelling on planes, buses, because of the fear of the space and maybe the actual movement, the travelling itself. And you could then also have on top of that a social anxiety. So it might be that not only can you not go into those crowded spaces, but you can't deal with loads and loads of people that you don't know, having to maybe even do like any performances or public speaking. You will be absolutely terrified of that. Now, when it becomes more complex, this is when it really starts to have an effect or disruption of behaviour, preventing you from doing certain things, maybe even leaving your house. With agoraphobia, you would definitely have that feeling of, you know, I cannot leave my house. And that may also come up with, you know, a fear of contamination, fear of germs, linking to OCD. So if you are in that place when you have severe social anxiety and coupled with, you know, fear of actually just going outside, this is obviously going to really impact on your life. So it might stop you from going to work, it might stop you from, you know, going to school, you know, it might stop you from building relationships, building friendships. It might stop you from, you know, if you're a volunteer and you work out in the community, it could prevent you from helping other people. So it can be really, really severe. So even if you have a simple case of phobia or a more complex, the phobia is still coming from that intense, uncontrollable anxiety. And we can't shift that, we can't get rid of that, we can't escape it. So whether you're one of those, it's still a really rubbishy place to be. There is help for phobias out there. You know, you can, I've seen sort of programs where they, you know, have methods of exposure to certain fears, you know, people learning to hold a spider and things like that. I mean, I used to have I still don't really like them, but I'm a massive fear of cockroaches. But I went to this like kids adventure park for my niece's birthday, and they had this this little room, and you could go in and like hold spiders and bugs and things. And I was quite happy holding spiders, but when they put the cockroach on my hand, that was pretty was what I kind of did, I think. But I did it, and the little chap stayed on my hand, and after a while I was kind of like, oh, you're actually quite cute. Maybe it's because I'm a vegetarian that I just see the cuteness in all animals, I don't know, but I think being vegetarian has taken my phobia of spiders, snakes and all that kind of stuff away. Actually, I never had a fear of snakes, but I do know someone who does have a fear of snakes, and when they pop up on the telly, she can't even bear that. This leads me nicely into my top 10 phobias. Now this is taken from fearof.net, a site all about phobias. Really useful information, thanks guys. So I'm going to go through the top 10. I'll very quickly explain what they all are. Some of them are very self-explanatory, so I probably won't go into too much detail about those. We've talked about this one. Number 1, arachnophobia. This is the top phobia experienced by people, and I know many people with this phobia. And yes, personally, I'm the one now that has to get the glass and the piece of card to get rid of it because someone doesn't like to remove them themselves. 2, ophidiophobia, and I still don't know if I'm saying this right. Ophidio, ophidiophobia. This is a fear of snakes. I've mentioned this. Maybe I haven't mentioned this. My sister-in-law, she has a huge phobia of snakes. Yes, I did say this. She turns the telly off. Yep. So repetition. Acrophobia, fear of heights. My brother has this. Another bit of a rubbish one. But does that have an impact on your life? Yeah, I guess maybe if you were having to sort of scale buildings as I don't know, architecture and things like architecture sort of things, or you know. But again, really, really horrible, crippling fear. Agoraphobia or agoraphobia, I've never been sure how to pronounce that, so correct me if I'm wrong. Fear of open or crowded places. Cynophobia, fear of dogs. One of my sisters has that. Astrophobia, fear of thunder and lightning. I quite like thunder and lightning, but I know someone who's very scared of it. And I'm not discounting any of these phobias because they're all irrational, they're all sent to try us, and even just anticipating seeing any of these or being around any of these is really scary. Astrophobia, claustrophobia, probably most of us have heard of this one. I used to have this quite bad when I was a kid, not so bad at it now, but again, the thought of being like maybe trapped in a box or buried alive, I mean that's pretty much anyone's phobia really. Mysophobia, fear of germs. This could possibly link to you know, the OCD contamination. So if you have more complex phobias of germs, this could lead to maybe more obsessive compulsive disorder. Aerophobia, fear of flying. My niece has this, and one of my other friends. And then the last one, which I've never heard of before, which is trypophobia, a fear of holes, as in like holes. So this could be, you know, like a coral reef, you know, like the corals have all the little holes in, or the sponge, and some cheese and meat has holes in. Apparently this can be really, really terrifying for people. I'm not sure where this one comes from, but yeah, it's a new one to me. So if anyone is experiencing that, maybe tell me what it's like. Now, just to end, just because I'm really going to wrap up in a sec, Masklophobia, fear of mascots. Thanatophobia, fear of dying or death, which is very odd when you've had suicidal tendencies, you know, that kind of real contradiction there. But you know, I'm absolutely terrified of it. I can't talk about it. I can't even think about anyone I know dying because it will send me into a bit of a state. Carcinophobia, fear of cancer. This is quite a new common one. And nyctophobia or nyctophobia, fear of the dark, and that was one that I really had when I was a child. Being, you know, the thought of being like in a dark room on my own would terrify me, so I'd have a night light, which my sister didn't like because it would keep her awake. Obviously as I've got older I've learnt to manage it, but I still am quite scared of the dark. You know, if I went to a, you know, like a big castle in the middle of the night and had to stay there on my own with no lights, then yeah, I'd probably be pooing my pants a little bit. But luckily that doesn't happen in my day-to-day life. So that is phobias. I hope you found that interesting. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Please tell me about your phobias and what it's like to live with. Next time, yeah, we'll be talking about, forget what I just said. Take care. Oh, have a good week, and I will see you next time.